Guten Tag und willkommen nach Morsels und Motors. Ich heiße Sean und das ist ein VW Polo 2. Okay, enough of the German. This is a Mark II Polo. We have a little visitor to the driveway of dreams today. This is a 1990 Volkswagen Polo. It's a Mark II. It's one of the last of the Mark IIs. So this is a base model. It's badged as C, but it's actually known in the literature as a Fox. Earlier on in the Mark II Polo's life, there was a Fox Special Edition, which had stickers and had special hubcaps and that kind of thing. And that seemed to be very popular, so they've sort of stuck with that for the base model by 1990. But they've made it more, they've sort of standardised the Fox features into the base model. So it's got funkier Fox style upholstery, which we'll have a look at in a moment, but it hasn't got kind of the zany stickers and the zany hubcaps that the original Fox would have. They actually retained the Fox name for the base model of the Mark IIF. Now the Mark II Polo was launched in 1981, so by 1990 this was actually really quite old-fashioned, and that is going to become apparent when we have a look inside. Bearing in mind that this Ford Fiesta Mark III was launched a year before this car was made. Being up close to this car, the first thing that strikes me is quite how small it is. It's really tiny. I'm 5'7" and the car is only up to my chest, so it's about the same height as the Metro. So let's have a proper look around this car. So the boot, let's start there because I'm here at the back of it. We have a dinky little rear wiper actually on it. The owner tells me that that was, he thinks, an extra that was added after the car was made. So we've actually got a push button for the boot, which is a lot better than the Fiesta and the Metro actually. Inside we've got a decent looking boot, probably about the same size as again the Metro or the Fiesta, but the difference is that of course we've got this sort of estate-like shape, which means that you can pile things much higher if you take the parcel shelf out, and then if you put the rear seats down, then it could have turned it into a bit of a van. So I can see that it could be very useful and quite capacious. For me though, because of the very straight shape at the back, and because the car is so short, you can't really lean into the boot very well. Whereas in the Metro and the Fiesta or a traditional hatchback you can, because the hatchback opens much further away from you, whereas here I feel a bit kind of hemmed in by it. It's not necessarily a criticism, but it's just something you have to bear in mind. So if I was needing to put things in the back of the boot here, I'd need to sort of bend down to reach it, rather than just sort of reach in, which I would in the Metro and the Fiesta. Note the excitement of two rear speakers. What luxury. My absolute favourite thing about this car is this panel here, because the base model has it just in body colour like that, whereas every other model has a piece of black plastic grilling on there. So I really love, because I'm a base model junkie, I really love that sort of detail, that they leave it body coloured. So let's open the door. Now this has got the traditional 1980s Volkswagen door handles, where you've got the little handle inside, or the little pull inside the handle. The owner has also fitted these fabulous little 1980s reflective protective strips, which I think are great. My mum had them on her 340. So we open the door to reveal quite a large opening with a lot of body coloured metal inside, and a door card that is kind of a very hard, I don't know, I'd say it's probably hardboard with no padding, so it's just kind of got some vinyl kind of stuck to the hard wood hardboard behind it. It does make it feel a little bit basic. I think the higher up models would have had cloth trim, but again, interestingly, no padding, so it would be cloth kind of glued onto the hardboard. We do have a door pocket on both sides, manual windows, and obviously manual mirrors, so there's no adjustment inside for those mirrors. Cute little door pull, and the handle, it feels, oh, that is a proper handle. That's a solid handle to close the door with. We've also got one of the rare things that is a remnant from the cars from the 80s, which is a quarter light in the door, although it's not an opening quarter light, but it's still a a quarter-light style front door. One thing I've always loved about these Polos is these grills in the doors, which really don't lend an air of quality to it, because you can really see, if we can focus please, you can totally see inside the door. Which I quite enjoy, really. So inside we've got these seats, which look really comfortable. They're super padded. They look really nice, and they've got that fox kind of red upholstery, which is kind of what makes this car, really. If I zoom in, they really are the colours of the car. So they are the red and the grey. So that is the theme of this whole car: red and grey door cards, etc. Back seat also looks in excellent condition as well, and looks really comfortable. It's so padded, it looks like a quilt. It's fab. So climbing on board this Polo, the main thing that strikes me, again as I said in the back, is how small it is. It feels really tiny. It's a properly 70s car, really. So the Mark III Fiesta, which is over there, hugely outclasses it in terms of interior space. I feel really quite hemmed in this. I'm quite close to the window. I can actually just about touch the passenger door without having to stretch very much at all. I feel quite close to the roof. Everything I feel, and the dashboard kind of comes out at me. So it really does give you that feeling that it is actually a very small car. Although I said that the Metro I feel is a similar size, I think the way that they've designed the interior of the Metro, which I did a video on and the link is in the description below, it feels much bigger, much more spacious. They've made the dashboard kind of away from you. They've really thought in the Metro about making the passenger space the bigger almost than the outside size of the car. And that's not the case here. But the flip side of that is I think this gives you a slightly more air of solidity. So you have a proper big chunky dashboard that feels like it's been hewn out of something rather than just sort of a piece of flimsy plastic like you get in the Metro. So speaking of the dashboard, let's take you for a little tour of that. Okay, so starting on the dashboard, we've got an air vent on the right hand side and one on the left hand side, but first thing you notice is that there isn't any central air vents at all, so I would imagine ventilation in this car is not actually that great. In terms of storage, we've actually got a little shelf here underneath the steering column, where I think that looks like the car's manual, or oh no, it's a road atlas from WH Smith lives. It's great fun, lovely and period. There is no glove box whatsoever. There's just some wiring underneath the dashboard, so I think that's one of the cost-cutting measures in the Fox base model. You do get this kind of shelf here, which you can store a few items in, but I'd imagine they run around a bit. Also, the shelf is kind of taken up primarily by one of the speakers, so we have a tri-speaker car, which is quite fun, one in the front and two in the rear. Looking at the dashboard itself, it is really quite straightforward and simple. We've got the switch for the light is just here, and I think that must be a rheostat, but I'm not 100% sure. The instrument binnacle itself has got just what you need and nothing more, really. We've got a speedometer, and we've got the tank and temperature. We've also got these cute little LED lights, which are synonymous with Volkswagens of the time. Showing how much of a base model this is, only 5 of them seem to do anything on this car, that are marked up anyway as having a purpose. The steering wheel is actually really small. It's really nice feel to it. It's quite canted towards me, it's quite flat, but it's got quite a nice feel to it. It's a nice size. However, I would imagine that without the power steering, which it doesn't have, that having a slightly bigger steering wheel would be better, but then I suppose it would also touch my legs, so this is probably the biggest size they could get away with. But yeah, it's a nice steering wheel, 2-spoke with a horn in the middle. The earlier ones of the Polos had the Wolfsburg logo in the centre of the boss, but because this is a bit later, a facelifted dashboard, we've got the Volkswagen logo instead. To the left of the instrument binnacle, we've just got some of the other minor controls: hazards, heated rear window and rear fog lights. Down in the centre of the dashboard, we've got the heater controls, which are really very basic. So we've got just this one directs where the heat goes. Oh, it's got quite a nice solid feel and heavy to it. And this bottom one has a little cold and hot side, so you just move that along for where you want the heat. And it's also got the dinkiest little fan switch I've ever seen. That's tiny. I mean, it's literally no bigger than my finger. Ooh, below the steering wheel we've got a manual choke. So this car, by 89, the Polos all had automatic chokes, but they were not known for being the best in the world, so at some point somebody's converted this car back to a manual to give you some manual control. Also a coin tray underneath there, which is rubberized, so you can put some little coins in there, which is quite fun. This particular car's got an aftermarket radio put into it, radio cassette. It looks like it's from the 90s, which is quite nice, very appropriate. The angle of it, it's kind of downward, very vertical angle, actually makes it quite useful to use, because it's kind of it's quite, you know, it's within reach nice and easily, and it's angled towards me so I can actually see what it says. I don't really have to move my eyes from the road too much to use it, but it does make it feel old-fashioned. It makes it feel like, you know, an old Mini or even a Citroen GSA, which has the radio down in the centre console here, that it's kind of a vertical radio. It's just a bit odd. Down on the floor we've got a 4-speed manual gearbox, which has got quite a nice rubber gaiter around it, makes it feel a little bit more industrial. Handbrake is sort of handbrakey. It does have a hand grip underneath it, so it doesn't feel too slippy and slidey. Right, let's go and have a seat in the back. So the back of the Polo, I might just put the seat up just to see how I feel. Actually, I feel the back, if I remove the seat, actually feels a bit bigger in the back than the front. I think because I haven't got the dashboard right up against me, and also I've got all this glass and all this space behind me, because just about reach the tailgate. So it's not like a normal hatchback where you have the roof line kind of just above your head where the tailgate starts. So yeah, it's actually not bad in the back. We've got seat belts, because by 1990 they were mandatory, of course, in the rear. Centre lap belt. But yeah, the seat's quite comfortable. It's quite supportive. It's quite squishy, which I wasn't expecting in a German car, actually. I like it. You sit quite low in the back here. Gives you quite a nice view. It's good. The grab handles seem a little basic. They really remind me of what's on a Beetle. They almost look like they're the same moulding as the ones on a Beetle. They're just a piece of vinyl that's been looped around and screwed in. I'm just showing you the back from the inside. Again, you've got some body coloured metal going on in here, nice and basic, although the B pillar is trimmed. There are no ashtrays in the back here, which really surprises me, just a little cutout where one could have been. Perhaps in older models they might have had them, but maybe by 1990 they thought that the kids didn't need a fag in the back of their Polo. Okay, so let's take this little Polo out for a drive. Oh, it's really easy to reverse because you can really see where the back of the car is. That's very handy. Right, let's go. So I'm slightly scared about driving this car because I've heard the slight horror stories of it not having a servo on the brakes. Now the current owner assures me that you get used to. Oh god, yes, okay, that's new to me, that feeling. Oh yeah, those brakes are interesting. Oh, they stopped the car, but I've never had that feeling with a when you put your foot on a brake pedal that it's so sort of, it's not urgent at all. Interesting. Okay, so the engine actually sounds so sweet. It sounds quite far away, and it sounds like it's just working and ticking over like a really sweet German sewing machine. It's really nice. One issue is that the speedometer isn't working, which I wasn't expecting, but so I'm having to guess what miles per hour I'm doing. It feels very tightened together over bumps, actually. surprised about that. It's nice and softly sprung. Very good. Oh, it's got really nice light clutch action. Pulls away really nicely. And it feels really refined. Really refined, actually. I wasn't expecting that for a car that was designed in 1981. The rearview mirror is really quite close, so I feel like things... Ooh, need to brake again. Hello. I think I'll get used to the brakes. Might take me a little bit longer than the actual length of this drive is the only problem. It sounds like the idle's a little bit high when we're stationary, but actually when we're on the move it feels fine, so perhaps that's just a thing with them. The engine never seems to sound rough. There we go, we're in top gear, we're in fourth. Hey! Yeah, engine never seems to sound rough at all. It just sounds like the little whistle the engine makes almost just gets a little bit louder. It doesn't sound raucous at all. It sounds really nicely damped over there in front of me. I mean, it's quite rattly, but the rattles seem deep, you know? Does that make any sense? They're like a deep rattle every now and again. They're sort of damped rattles rather than sort of lightweight plastic rattles. Yeah, nice steering. It's nicely weighted on the move. Actually, I don't think it necessarily is too small, this steering wheel. I got used to the brakes now I know what to do. So compared to the Metro to start with, there are cars of the same era. I think there's no comparison. This is so much more refined. The engine is so much more responsive. It's silky smooth compared to the A series in the Metro. My Metro has servo brakes, so that is a plus point on the Metro, I have to say. The steering wheel, the fact that it's smaller and it's rubber, really makes it feel a lot more modern than the Metro. It doesn't rattle as much. It feels more planted on the road. It feels more solid. So yeah, this is definitely the one to have over the Metro, I would say. So compared to the Fiesta then, my Mark III, how does it drive? They're actually broadly similar. Yeah, they're broadly similar. I think they've got the similar sort of power output feel and responsiveness. I'd say the engine in this is, again, more refined than the one in the Fiesta, but that's no surprise because the Fiesta engine is actually originally the Kent engine that was designed in the 60s. So, yeah, I'm not surprised by that. But the cabin feel, though, is quite different. I feel like I'm in a much older car than when I'm in the Fiesta. The Fiesta feels much more light and spacious and a much more modern sort of fascia. I feel like I'm in something a little bit more austere here than the Fiesta. Even though the Fiesta is also the base model, this just feels like it's a step up in austerity compared to the Fiesta. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little video and this review of this fantastic little Mark II Polo. I'm really excited in that I've actually got a few more other people's cars that I will be reviewing coming up on the channel, so that's going to be great. Stick around for those. If there's anything that you would like to see coming up, if you've got any of your cars that you would like me to have a little drive of, I would love to drive other Super Minis from the 80s, early 90s would be perfect, Nova, that kind of thing. I'd love to try and kind of do all the Super Minis, see what they're like. It would be lovely if you would subscribe to the channel so that I can feel like I'm not screaming into the void. Always makes going to the effort of doing this feel more worthwhile, that people actually enjoy watching them. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. I will see you again in another video very soon. Bye!